Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of the ZAA Global Virtual Summit under the theme Promoting Critical Conversation Between Diaspora and Home-Based Communities for Collaboration and Sustainable Development. Thank you so much for joining us. A special thank you to our sponsors, World Remit. Special thank you goes out to Kudu Business Support, High Mount London, and to Fine and Country for making all this possible. We've had an amazing 4 sessions so far for this summit. Yesterday was a lot of learning, a lot of insight on what Zimbabweans are doing all over the world and how they have found ways to contribute to nation building. And I'm very excited for you guys to join us for day 2, when we can continue having these amazing conversations, and hopefully we get to learn quite a bit. So we are live on ZAA Facebook page. We're also live on Zimbo Live, and we're also on YouTube on the ZAA Global Virtual Summit page. Hashtag ZAA Summit to follow the conversation on Twitter. And I am very, very, very excited for this first session. We are going to be talking to some very, very interesting people, telling us about fashion and how you can, you can get to create a brand, how to market yourself properly. So stay tuned, and I hope we get to learn quite a bit from everyone today. So our moderator for today is going to be Duduzile Matema. I'm just going to bring Dudu in so that we can just do a quick intro. Hi, Dudu. Good morning. Duduzile, can you hear me?
Good morning, Tatenda. Can you hear me clearly?
Good morning.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, we got you. We got you. Awesome. Thank you for coming through on day 2.
And thank you for inviting me as well.
Awesome. Let's get into this. I'm very excited to hear from.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
From everyone on the panel. Go ahead, Dudu.
All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to day 2 of the ZAA Global Virtual Summit. And in today's day, we're on the first session. And in the first session, what we'll be doing is speakers who are going to be discussing with us on fashion and style, and basically how to manage market globally. So that's what we'll be discussing about. And my name is Duduzile, and I'm going to be your host for today's discussion, your moderator for today's session. And I hope you learn a lot, and I hope you really are excited about today's session as much as I am. And before we begin, I'd like to extend my gratitude to World Remit for sponsoring today's edition and yesterday's edition as well. That is World Remit. And I'll also like to thank Kudu Business Support, High Mount Construction, as well as Fine and Country. Thank you very much for continuing to support ZAA Award, ZAA Global Summit. It really means a lot to us. And joining me today for the discussion on fashion and lifestyle are 3 exciting speakers, as I've already said. And I'll just read something what it is that they do before I can actually bring so that you can actually meet them and have a moment to learn from them, actually understand what they do in their life work. So I'm joined here by an innovative trendsetter of today's time. That is how she prefers to be referred to. She's the founder and sole owner of Style Philosophy. It is a luxury clothing brand and enchantress. Our speaker is listed on the Gumi Guru 50 under 30 class of future leaders 20. She is from Mimshak International and Immigration and Relocation Company. She's also a brand influencer for brand Pokelo, food icon, Sandy 2, and her brand Style Philosophy as well. Our speaker is commercial model. She is an influencer. She came from her feature as a model and or vixen on Japre's song Mukwasha. She's an industrious and aggressive entrepreneur who has evolved and grown regardless of the plagiarism in the fashion industry and the patriarchal society. Help me welcome to Natalie Mandu.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, how are you? My name is Natalie. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am also going to be joined by a fashion creative, a red carpet host, and fashion police expert. Our speaker has been listed among most influencers under 40, and this particular speaker, or rather panelist, is currently the ambassador for the following companies: Forme International, Stekinakwe, Pizza Hut brand, exotic fragrance scent. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome to today's session Tafadzwa Zimoyo, also known as the boss. Joining us as well in today's session is a lady who is a founder and creative director of Bianco, assistant accessories designer Gucci, branding consultant Tomo Jewelry Italy, accessories model for Emporio Armani, mother to two beautiful African gray parrots, based lawyer, abstract artist, accessories designer Mazzani Payun, Italy, based in Florence, Italy, and Zimbabwe. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome to today's session, Rutendo Karikoga.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this talk.
Hey guys, sorry, it looks like Dudu's network is really bad. I'm just gonna ask her to try and jump back in real quick. But in the meantime, since we are here, we could kind of start talking. I mean, we've heard your fantastic introductions. You guys, definitely phenomenal. I'm also waiting for Tafaza to join back in. It seems like he's also having bad network. Please just in the comments, could you let me know if you can hear me or if it's something that we need to keep fixing. Just if you can in the comments, just tell me if the network is a little bit better now. And then maybe we can kind of proceed while we wait for the other two to get back on. Okay, thank you, Tanaka. He says it's much better. Okay, all right. So maybe for now, maybe we can just hear from the two panelists that are present. Okay, let's talk about your image as a brand. I mean, Natalie, a lot of us have just gotten to know you from the video. You're that the girl who's out there helping her bae out. I mean, tell me what it has been like. What has the journey been like for you in the fashion business? How did it start? Where does your passion come from?
Okay, thank you very much, Tatenda. So, growing up, I always had a passion for fashion. I would combine outfits from simple things. I could turn a top into a skirt. I've always been a person who's very creative. So, along the course of life, there's a point in time that I lost my job and I traveled on holiday. And as I was there, I realized that I could actually buy stuff and come and resell back in Zimbabwe because everyone would ask me, where did you get what you're wearing? How much was it? So it was just a moment of realization that, I could actually make money from this. So my brand started in the year 2018. And it's been a very rocky but educational journey so far. I have been through the downs and the ups. I have gone broke. I have found my fit and got back up. So I can safely say it's been an educational journey, and I can safely say that I have made myself a brand by learning the hard way.
I mean, that's amazing. I think almost every entrepreneur in any space has had that sort of journey where you know your passion, you decide to just start, you get ahead and start. But obviously it's going to be like this. It's not going to be all straight. It's going to be a bumpy road. And I can say I'm pretty proud of how far you've come so far. It doesn't, as it stands, we can't tell that anything ever went wrong. It looks perfect. So kudos to you on that.
Thank you.
Rutendo, yes. Talk to me about Italy. Like, I want to know, how did you end up in Italy? How did you start, being a brand ambassador, designing stuff? I mean, those are big names. How did you get there? Was it something that you always knew as a kid that you wanted to do? Was it something that kind of just happened along the way by accident? What is your story?
So very, very interesting story. So I was based in Australia as a lawyer, but it wasn't my passion. It's what my mom wanted me to do. But I'd always been a very creative kid. I'd be the sort of person that would, if you give, when you're given like those shapes to color in kindergarten and you have to color the circle, color the square. I would always color outside. I was always that.
You were that girl.
Turkey. And even like dressing up, I really enjoyed dressing up. And I used to play with my mom's makeup when she was getting ready for work. So yeah, I always enjoyed being very creative. Like I loved making cards, loved writing poems. So it's something that was just in me. I just wasn't aware that I was a creative person. You know, it's not like I consciously thought about it. But like my creative journey started, I'd have to say 2015 when I came back to Zim from Australia. I just made some backpacks and I was traveling to go visit my brother, and I just thought, let me make some leather accessories. And at the airport, when I got to South Africa, everybody kept asking, oh my gosh, where did you get these bags from? I was like, it's just a hobby. This is what I just do for fun. And when I came back, there's actually a local designer house of stone that was founded by Danai Chapika, who's now Danai Madondo. And I always used to buy clothes from her when I was in Australia because I just loved her brand. She was actually in the process of creating a new collection that was inspired by recycling. And she saw one of my bags and she said, Ria, why don't you make, these bags for me for my fashion show? And I was like, I'll only do it on one condition, that you don't mention my name and the bags come under House of Stone. I don't want any association whatsoever, because I didn't feel confident enough to execute or to put myself out there. It was just a hobby. So what was meant to be me designing for someone turned out to be a collaboration. And that's when I started to really discover my creative voice, and that, I really loved being in this space. And most importantly, I loved telling stories. So through that, I got diagnosed with breast cancer when I was actually working on that collection. And then when I got into remission, I thought to myself, okay, well, what am I going to do now? Like I felt a sense of, confusion and conflict with who I was at the time. So I thought maybe I should go back to being a lawyer, because I know how to do that. But in the process, I felt like, I don't want to do that, because I've closed that chapter in my life, and I don't believe in opening doors that I've closed. So I thought, okay, let me be vulnerable within the brand Fambanini, which I established, and tell my story about my cancer journey, but also share other people's stories. So within that, that's when I started to really explore that creative voice. And once again, it wasn't intentional. And I didn't intend to be the face of the brand by any chance. Like I always wanted to be behind the scenes. But the nature of the story didn't allow or had room for somebody else to tell it my way. It had to be my voice and my narrative. So did the collection, and Taff actually happened to be one of the guys that interviewed me. BBC News, Africa, Kenyan TV. So I decided, let me take myself to school and formally, formalize what I wanted to do, my creative side. And when I got to Italy, the film happened to be playing on Italian TV, and just everything else has been an amazing coincidence. Yes, beautiful accidents. So yeah.
I mean, we know all about those ones. A lot of people come through and they say, I was trying to be a doctor. I went to this place trying to be a nurse, and then I turned around and started doing this, but there's no reason why you can't either change career or do both if you've got a passion. True. So I think I'm seeing Tafadzwa here. Let me just try to add him in. Tafadzwa, hi, can you hear us? Hi, there we go.
I can hear you, ladies. Yes.
Hello, how are you doing?
For better network.
Okay, that's fine.
I was just looking for better network, so I'm on the rooftop now.
Okay, yeah, do whatever it takes to get the job done. Perfect.
Okay.
Welcome to the session. Thank you so much for joining us, Tafadzwa. Okay. Mr. Fashion Police, should we be scared?
For today,
how are we looking?
Say, okay, you're looking good. One thing that I like about all of you is you natural, and that's who you are. I can even tell this is Natalie, this is Rutendo, this is Tatenda.
Awesome. Thanks, Taffy. Maybe you can come through and just kind of tell us your story. How did you come from being Tafaza to being the boss? What's the boss about? Come through, how did it start? How's your journey been? I mean, you're a journalist, you're a fashion blogger, you're brand ambassador, all these things. Talk to us. How did this all start?
Okay, my journey it started, I think, around 2013. I used to wear I was a casual person. I hated suits. So one of these days I was invited to some cocktail party and I was supposed to cover the event as well as to present. So I met Cynthia from Jam. Then she decided to and said, can't you try wearing this green suit? In fact, I don't like the color green. So I wore the suit. Then I went to the event. Then I present. Then people started saying, "Oh, you look like a boss." Then that's the name originated. Then as a journalist, I do fashion critique. I do fashion consultant. I've managed to launch several red carpet events from the Miss Stories in Zimbabwe. I even also went for the Africa Magic Viewers' Choice Awards for a month in Nigeria, where we were learning about the red carpet, how to host, and how to cover and write the news on fashion reporting.
Awesome stuff. I mean, I've seen you, I've read your articles, and I'm very honored to be sitting opposite you like this to get to hear the voice behind the pen. Great job.
Thank you.
We're just gonna dive right into the topic here. We're talking about how to build your brand. How do you make an image, or how do you build an image that can be marketable globally? So all of you guys are in fashion. You guys have had a chance to maybe even like look at international acts. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think goes into building a brand? Maybe I'll start with Natalie. Natalie, it's your brand, is really starting to grow now, right? What has been your challenge in terms of trying to build the brand, but still staying authentic? You know what I mean? You're trying to build this image for the public, and obviously the public perceives you in whatever way that they see. How has it been a challenge to kind of build that and have it come across the way you want it to come across in terms of your image? Maybe you could tell us what sort of image you're trying to build and what you've been doing to try and work towards having the public perceive you the correct way.
Okay, thank you very much, Tatenda. So I'm going to be very honest. I think my biggest challenge as an entrepreneur is the patriarchal society that we live in. We are limited by how society views us. I'll speak about my lingerie brand. Yeah, it's really difficult for me to grow that brand because society has boxed us in a little box where they believe that us as Africans need to look a certain way, dress a certain way, and behave a certain way. So it's really difficult to try and break the ground and spread your wings into the global markets because I believe that for a brand to grow, you need to first grow it within your area. You need to first make sure that you create a name for yourself where you live locally. So my biggest challenge has been the fact that, the controversy that comes with the uniqueness of the brand that I'm building. Society views it as, I'll tell you what, people can label you as something else just because you're trying to portray something else. It's art. Fashion is art. And it requires creativity. So the biggest problem is we're now limited by how people think or how people look at us. And it's unfortunate that, it's the same people that live around you will look at you in the same way and say, you're not Rihanna, so you can't pose in lingerie. This is not Fenty. So it's really difficult for us to then grow and go past the borders because for us to even penetrate the local market, it really takes a lot. So I think society really has to move from being a patriarchal society where women are limited and respected according to how they look or how they dress. Because with fashion, we need to be creative and think outside the box. As Zimbabweans, we're lagging behind because of that. And
Right.
our biggest marketing platform is social media. And it's very unfortunate that it's accessible to anyone and everyone. So I think the only one thing that I can appreciate about social platforms is the use of LinkedIn. It has helped me to create networks with the right people, with the right crowd that I want. So I'm able to make connections with people in the same line of work that I'm in, and I'm able to then establish important contacts and to gain mentors from people who've been there before, who've done it before. And that's just the way that my brand is growing. Because in this digital era, we are mainly working with social media. And it's very unfortunate that this year has been literally down because of COVID-19. And it's been a very educational journey for me because I've learned the art of using the digital space, and I've learned how to play around with social media and how to influence the people that follow my social media accounts into moving from just being my followers to being my clients.
That's interesting. You have brought up a very interesting topic there when you talk of patriarchal societies and all that. I'd love to maybe, because unfortunately, Tapaza, you're the only man here. So I would love to hear your view on that, on what Natalie said about how patriarchal society then tends to have this impact on how she then has her brand perceived. Rutenda, you could literally just jump in and either say, okay, you know what, I face the same issue, or because you live in Italy and you live in Zimbabwe, right? You're based in both places. Have you seen this difference? And what's the difference with Italy versus with home? What would you say to Natalie at this point to give her a different view of how it's going?
Oh, see, the interesting thing is my naivety has actually protected me from a lot of things. So I was always the sort of person where, things fly over my head. So I can give an example where I'm in an environment that's very male dominant, for example, and I'm having to express my fashion sense and my, me being an independent business person within that fashion space. And you're around accountants and, doctors, people who are very intellectual. I've always been able to, I guess, mute things that are not relevant to me, which is a key part about branding, is you need to understand your voice and be secure in that voice, because that will create immunity to things that are irrelevant. But it also helps you subconsciously create a filter of places that you need to exist in and how you can penetrate certain markets. So I feel like with my experience being in Italy, I was just myself. I didn't try to be Italian. I didn't try to be British. I didn't try to come across like someone who came from an amazing design background. My story was just, I love to tell stories, and I want to be able to share those stories with people from my perspective with an authentic voice. So I think key thing is when you know yourself and you have identity, and you're secure within that identity, it's easy for people to, want to relate and actually tap into your space, even if they are not, quite fully aware of what it is you do. So being in Zim, we have a very judgmental society. We are very assumptive, and quick to put red tapes on certain things. And it's something that I experienced when I was doing my fashion film for The Art of Chemo. I wanted somebody to have been, partially naked in that video, to express vulnerability from a creative perspective. And I couldn't get, someone to do it because everybody was just like, oh my gosh, naked? No way, I'm not going to do that. Is it a female videographer that's going to be shooting, is going to be editing? There were so many questions. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's just express yourself, So I ended up having to do it. And unfortunately, it was two male videographers, but that didn't faze me because I was so focused on the narrative that I was trying to tell. So even Tap happened to come to the exhibition, and my mom was there, my family was there, a lot of males were there. And not once did I think, oh my gosh, what are they going to say? They're going to see my bum. They're going to see, I didn't think about all of those things, because the most important thing was telling the story. And true to form, people were crying. It wasn't even the reaction as far as you're going to be seen in a sexual way. So I can understand where Natalie's coming from. Zim is a completely different landscape altogether. But I think how to navigate that landscape is know who you are and what you stand for. And it's easy for people to get on board when you know who you are and what you're trying to sell. So I don't know, maybe Taff has a different perspective on that one.
I mean, I would love to hear from him. Being a male, to hear the male viewpoint, it's just hear a different perspective.
Okay, Tatenda. I think the first issue right now is people need to understand what is a brand. According to me, it's the brand is your image that you need to protect. You need to see yourself as like you're in a mirror. You need to see yourself as you're like as a role model. You need to see yourself as like the father, the mother, the brother, the sister to the next person. So when it comes to the fashion and branding, I've noticed most of the ladies, they think it's all about being sexy, which is okay on another note, but fashion is not all about sex. Fashion is all how do you portray yourself. One thing that I also like to acknowledge and to comment on Natalie has managed to push a brand so well on social media, be it whatever people say, whatever people comment on it. Social media posts. The issue is what do you want to achieve at the end? What do you want? What is your goal? So for like what the ladies say that it's all about male dominance. I tend not to agree, because right now it's 50. The ladies are also competing. If you check on the on social media, since this is one of our platforms, I think this 19. Natalie can post a picture, I can post a picture, Richard can post a picture. We can still get different likes, and people have different connotations. But when it comes to fashion, it's all about your identity. What do you want to achieve at the end? Don't even be don't even be disturbed or looked down upon by different people who say different comments.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, and I hear. I mean, all angles are very valid right now at this point, but obviously, being that, I think, as well as you're saying, it's a very transitional stage, I think, that we're going through as a nation. Like, people are starting to be more accepting of certain things than they were before. And I think this is just a strange time to be trying to navigate that industry in that way. But there's definitely room for conversation. And this is why we're having platforms like this. There's room for conversation to hear from the people, from the artists. We want to hear from the audience as well. I mean, I'm looking for comments to people. Please, you can weigh in and tell us what you think. So one person, this is a cute and I says, please send links to your work here, guys. This is good. I'm happy more Zimbabweans are expressing in art, including modern art and fashion. So guys, I'll be sure to paste any links that I get from the panel, so that you guys can access them in the comments. And then another comment here just came in. Tanaka Sekira says, playing at the outer fringes of society requires a thick skin. I think that's the essence of what Rutendo was saying, that if you're just kind of true to yourself, you can actually, people end up just gravitating towards it, because they can see that, what, she's not budging. This is it. This is her art. We take the likes of the lady in the Netherlands. What's her name? Mumbai. She started doing like very abstract nude art, and people started to just kind of follow through. At this point, nobody's saying much. So thank you, Tafazo, for that insight. Now, I wanted to find out maybe from Natalie, just if you could kind of give me an idea, or give us an idea, where do you think we are lagging behind in terms of fashion industry, trends and whatnot? What have you seen as one of those things that we need to push more on in terms of fashion for Zimbabweans? Where do you feel like we're lagging behind? Go ahead, Natalie. Sorry, Natalie, you need to unmute your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, we got you now. Perfect.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. So like I said before, I think the biggest problem we have is the controversy that comes from being unique. I'll speak about the Vimbai lady you mentioned earlier on. She has portrayed beautiful art. She expresses herself in nudity. But because we were raised to believe that a woman is only respectable when she's fully clothed, we are now lacking that sense of art in us that enables us to realize when someone is really trying to be creative and think outside the box. So I think the other problem that we have as Zimbabweans is we lack support amongst ourselves. I've seen a lot of people making it and flourishing outside the country more than they do in this country. I'll give you an example of Shasha, the artist. She started a music career way back, but she managed to move to South Africa and break the ground there, and now she stands as the queen of Amapiano. Just because she's in a space where people are supportive of dreams and they build in them. So our biggest problem as Zimbabweans is we weigh each other down, regardless of how someone is talented or who they are. I think it comes down to if people don't really know you, understand you, or they don't like your way of art or your expression, it's really hard to get support from your peers or from those around you. So I think the biggest problem that we have as Zimbabweans is we lack support. And there's too much judgments flying around in the air. So it's really hard to then break new ground or try to grow your creativity. And it's unfortunate that not everyone has access to knowing the right networks to approach or the right contacts to make.
I understand. I think somebody mentioned on another session yesterday, I think it was in the music session, Sipot Lamini was talking about how in other nations, they're very proud of whatever product that they're producing, be it in the music industry or what, everybody will stand behind somebody. As long as they're Nigerian, we're going to support, regardless of your tribe and whatnot. And I think that's something that we definitely, like, I do understand where you're coming from. We need to be more supportive of each other's art, more supportive of each other's ventures. But also, how can we then also push authentic Zimbabwean fashion? Like, what do you feel like the market is like the rest of the world? Maybe this one will go, to Rutendo. How do you feel Zimbabwean art or Zimbabwean fashion or the Zimbabwean brand, something that's authentically Zimbabwean, can be received worldwide? How can we or Zimbabwean artists and fashionistas, how can they push the Zimbabwean brand abroad, make it more acceptable?
That's a very interesting, controversial question. I've been on a lot of panels or, in different spaces where they've been asking or trying to push the whole support local narrative, sustainable Zimbabwean narrative, proudly Zimbabwean narrative, all of those things. I think that the most important thing, which is what Taff was saying, is branding is absolute key. And branding starts with self. If you can't brand yourself, you can't sell anything else that's an extension from that platform. It'll never work. So for example, I'll probably use Mukuru as an example. Mukuru, if you think of Mukuru, there's Mukuru, there's World Remit, there's Western Union, there's all of these different money sending platforms. But with Mukuru, you automatically think of family. So any diaspora, anyone in the diaspora is going to think, oh my gosh, Mukuru family. Yeah, the name of the brand and everything about the brand says we can reach where no one will be able to reach. We can reach where there's no network for phones, for whatever. It really exudes that. And then you look at brands like, I'll use Gucci because I happened to work in the house for some time. They understood what their voice was as a brand. But every creative director that has come in to work under the brand has always put in his own identity within the brand. So if you're someone who is confused, and there's so much noise, that's the unfortunate thing, is we're living in a space where there is so much noise out there that we're all trying to absorb and get everything. Okay, what's the next trend? What's this? What's this? What's that? But I'll probably say that being able to harness your authenticity as an individual first, and developing a brand manual for yourself, like what Taf was saying, and using that as a blueprint to map out places that you want to exist in and where you want to go, it's a lot easier to sell that narrative. Because everybody is buying a story. People think, oh, when I'm buying Apple, I'm buying a gadget. You're not buying a gadget. You're buying a story that was packaged well. If you're buying, Nike, you're not buying, functional shoes to work out in. You're buying a narrative and a story, and that's done from somebody. But if you look at people that have come and worked under those brands, under those houses, they're people who knew exactly what they stood for. With Gucci, Alessandro Michele is the current creative director. But Tom Ford designed under Gucci. Francesca designed, Frida designed under Gucci. And if you look at the era when they were working under the house, you can see that this is Tom Ford because it's sophisticated. You can see that this is Frida because, it's sexy, it's out there. You can see this is Alessandro Michele because he's expressive. He's all about, massive, consumerism, narcissism, So being true to yourself and knowing your narrative and developing a brand manual from a personal perspective is the key thing. When I developed Fambanini, I thought, my main thing wasn't I want to sell. That's the interesting thing. I didn't have, I want to be able to sell all my bags. The important thing was, have I told my story well and has it been understood? To me, that was the definition of my success. And everything else that came after was the result of keeping myself accountable to the story that I was trying to tell. And I managed to sell out. Then you get into a market like Italy. I mean, that's like the home of luxury goods and leather and craftsmanship. Everything is very artisanal and handmade. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm bringing in products that are not, entirely handmade with the best tools. There's imperfections here. And I said to myself, you know what, I'm coming from a country where I don't have access to all the resources. And my story is the imperfection of whatever I'm selling is part of my story. I'm not coming from a perfect country. And believe it or not, the same bag that would have sold for $200 would sell for $3,000 because I'm selling a narrative of authenticity and where I'm coming from. So I think what we need to find a good balance between staying relevant in the fashion space, but also being able to stay true to yourself. And because there's a fine line between staying relevant and following trends. So I
get that.
Yeah.
I think maybe if Tafaza can come in on this one, maybe to because like just what you were saying, how can Tafaza, are you there?
Yes, I'm there, but I'm only left with 9 minutes.
Okay, maybe before you leave, could you just quickly give us some input? How do you, in your experience, how would one boost individual image through fashion and lifestyle? I mean, there's been a lot of trends, buy Zimbabwe, totem pride, things like that. What do you suggest for people to be able to kind of boost their image through fashion? How can people go about doing that?
Okay, like I said, in the first time, what you need to understand is to move with the technology era now. We are in the digital world, so you need to first embrace the culture of social media platforms. Then through that, you can push your brand. For example, if you know how to post on Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, all those media platforms, then another thing that we also need to do is to accept our local brands first. If I were to pose a question on some of the local fashionistas, fashion bloggers, who's your favorite designers, and how many times have you worn their designer garments, or rather you're in Gucci, Prada, Ivy Parker. I see Natalie is the favorite of Ivy Parker, the Beyonce brand. So I think maybe what we need to do as a nation, or as fashion dolls, as we call ourselves, you need to understand that the world is our runway. So every move that you make, you need to make it with an impact. So if building a brand is not even a problem since we are using the social, but accepting the reality, the fact that we've got our own brands, and we accept and embrace that fashion culture. For example, if you go to South African Fashion Week or maybe Mercedes-Benz New York Fashion Week, they embrace their culture, they push their brand. But when we look at Zimbabweans, we are more of the Gucci, the Prada, the Versace, which is fine because everyone is entitled to to their opinion. But I'm saying if you want to push the fashion culture, we need first to embrace our identity and embrace our labels. Right now, we've got a lot of talented fashion designers, but the problem that we are having is they are not being marketed very well. Like if you go into fashion shops, into some of the leading fashion shops, fashion trends, they are not even selling those brands, but those fashion designers are selling them online, and we are not supporting them. We are not buying those those brands. If like we're going to have maybe a red carpet event or maybe an awards show, it would be nice. We have all local brands being supported, like this celebrity is wearing this brand, this celebrity is wearing this brand. But the problem is we don't want to give those local designers a chance and to market and to promote themselves. So I think what we need to do is to accept them and support them.
You're making very, very valid points. I mean, it comes back to the idea of pushing the brand Zimbabwe there, where little known designers need to be given the platform. What would stop you from wearing a local designer? Natalie, if you were called to a red carpet event, what would stop you? So I'm just trying to see where the problem might come from. What would stop you from wearing a local designer brand and to go for maybe Gucci or Prada or whatever? What would make you decide not to take a local brand?
Unfortunately, I am not a fan of these international big brands because I believe simplicity is key. So I'm not the kind of girl you would see wearing Gucci or Louis Vuitton, not because I can't afford it, but because it's just not me. I am more of a Tapumane Munenge Couture type of woman because Tapumane is going to create a dress that speaks about me, that portrays the kind of person that I am, that shows my taste, my style, and the kind of person that I am. I believe that there's so much talent to be tapped in Zimbabwe, and there's so much potential for these designers to grow beyond borders. I'll give an example of South African celebrities. You will never see Bonang Mateba or Boiti wearing a dress from Prada or Gucci on the award ceremonies or any big event. Those are like big celebrities. They host big annual events. They are always supporting their own. If they're not wearing Orapeleng Modutle, they're wearing Hert, and they're wearing local designer stuff because they're supportive of each other. So I want to believe that every movement begins with one step. And I'm all for supporting local designers because I'm also designing my own lingerie brand. And I've received amazing support from local people like Nomatemba, the owner of Porsche, people like Kwakelo. They've supported me so much. So I'm the kind of girl who would go and buy a pair of Kwakelo pink bottoms instead of red bottoms because I relate more to Pokelo's shoes. She's one of us. She's growing a brand. She's trying to portray a perfect image of how Zimbabwean creatives are thinking outside the box. She's also trying to show the world that as Zimbabweans, we're able. I mean, I've seen very, very big social media influencers wearing her shoes. So for me, I am more supportive of local people because I'm also trying to design my own brand. And it's really difficult to penetrate the market if you're not able to support others. I want to believe that you attract what you reflect. So I'm definitely not the kind of person who would put on Prada or Gucci. I would opt for Tafumane or Nandi Lareti or CC2 now. We have all these amazing designers and I have worn creations from each and every one of them and I have received amazing feedback from people. So I want us to all know that we have local amazing designers. All we need to do is just tap into their zone and understand them and let them create what we need And, it takes a village to raise a child. So it takes all of us to raise these brands to go global.
I think I'm going to pose the same question to Rutendo. But I do like what you said, Natalie, where you were saying that you would rather have someone who can connect with who you are, design something specifically for you. And it's a shame we don't have any of these designers on the panel. It would have been good to get one of them and hear from them what sort of challenges they are facing. But I'm going to pose the same question to you, Rutendo. What would make you not wear a logo designer's creation?
That's it's an interesting question. I'm a very patriotic person, actually. Extremely patriotic about, Zimbabwean designers, Zimbabwean brands, supporting local. But I have to say, like, the problem is we don't take time to actually focus on our quality control. Like, we're all creating and designing to be relevant, when we should be in a season of thriving to create, to invest and build and create an identity. Once again, I'm someone who's very secure about myself and in myself, and everything that I buy is a story. So I am not going to buy a brand that the story is not compelling to me. And this is the only issue that I've noticed with Zimbabwean brands. And the other thing is also, because I'm also a fellow designer, I design bags, but there are also other local designers that design bags. Like, I'll give an example, Patch Mawoko. If people see me carrying a Patch Mawoko, and I've had this reaction before, they're like, that's a Patch Mawoko bag. Oh, that's really nice. So you don't do leather bags anymore? And I'm thinking, well, why can't I buy, a fellow designer who designs the same, product as I do? You get those questions or those reactions all the time. But for me, it's a quality thing that we're lagging in quality. We're mass producing because we want to stay relevant. We're fighting for relevance in a fashion space that's really in its infancy. But if you look at House of Stone and what she's trying to do, is she's trying to tell a story and a local narrative story. If you look at Pam Samatsuo from Vanwangi, she's based in Canada and UK. She goes into communities and tells stories. Her bags tell stories. Look at Kid Hunter. Kid Hunter, his prints are inspired from, the caveman rock paintings, and he's telling his own version of the Zimbabwe narrative. The problem is, you can't, I always say this to people, that there isn't something like one truth, because truth is contextual in perspective. And it's the same thing with the Zimbabwe narrative and the support local and the local pride and the totem, everything. Know who you are first, and then take that back to your roots. And then understand your market, know your niche and understand your market. Investigate, who are you trying to sell to? What are you trying to sell to them? Because we're living in a space where there's so many things, like what Tap was saying. Know your style. Yes, there's social media platforms, but what are you putting out there? Do you actually take time to curate whatever it is you're creating? What's the story you're trying to sell? So for me, it's the only thing, I'll be very honest, why I wouldn't buy certain local brands. So yeah, I think that's probably my response to that. Whereas if you look at the international platform, they've been able to package their story well. Why we buy Gucci, why we support Gucci, we support Versace, we support Prada. They've been able to package and tell a narrative that's not even associated to a country, but it's an identity of a person. Like, Natalie, what you've done. You're staying true to yourself, saying, I will never wear anything that is not locally produced, because that's your narrative. Taff, if you hear some of his writing, when you read some of his critics in Herald or whatever, everything sticks to the ethos of what is created as a framework for himself, what is style and what is fashion, and he sticks to that. Whatever he buys has to speak to Taff. You're not going to catch him, So let's get on. I'll probably say, we, as designers, we need to get our narrative right, and we need to understand our market. And especially in international markets, what are we trying to sell before we put it out?
That is the biggest part of building a brand, really. You have something that is, that defines you. you know.
Yeah.
I know Tafi's about to go, so I just wanted him to give us some parting remarks and maybe just quickly say goodbye. Last words, Tafi, before you leave.
Okay, okay. Thank you, ladies. Okay, my parting words when it comes on the fashion world, uh, the problem that we have as Zimbabweans is not only accepting the fashion brands or accepting that we are embracing the culture of fashion. We also need to be motivated, be fashion bloggers, be fashion designers, be fashion models. What we are lacking as a country is we don't have the fashion awards. We don't have the style awards. Look at South Africa right now. Last week they hosted the Style Awards and Nigeria at their Glamour Awards. Why can't we, as fashion bloggers, fashion designers, fashion models, unite and create our own fashion awards? In the music sector, that's why they are improving because, like, let me put it in Shona, as they say, which mwana aramba achite zvakanaka, anoda kurohwa pat on the back. So why can't we do our own fashion awards? I think maybe I should pose this challenge for 2021. We can even do the visual awards because those people in the fashion world, they love to dress and they love to support. So maybe what we need to do is a fashion board that can be set aside so that we can push the motive. I can also pose it to the National Arts Council. When they do the awards, we don't have the fashion industry being recognized. It's only the music, the sculpture, the painting, among others. We don't have the fashion. So the designers, at the end of the day, they tend not to produce more garments to be sold maybe in a shop like they can have a corner, Edgar's shop, or maybe Forme or wherever, depending on the partnership. So I think maybe if we can have a fashion council, fashion association, fashion board, whichever way that can push that those awards, so that we can motivate and we can develop further the culture of fashion.
Thank you. I think everybody's interested in that. We would, I think competition, because it's a competition when you have an awards show. Competition definitely drives innovation. People, if there's a best dressed award at an event, people will come dressed, properly because everybody wants to get that. Yeah, yeah. So you make a very valid point there. Thanks, Tafi. Have a good day. Thank you for coming through. Awesome. I mean, this is. I mean, he brings up a very good point. Do you feel like we haven't been doing so well because there hasn't been much of a push in terms of just kind of pushing that competition or whatever? Do you feel like that's part of the reason why, or in general, are we as a people not very fashion conscious? Do you feel like we are not fashion conscious people as in general? Because I do get the sense I've been told certain times that, when Zimbabweans come to an event and it's a black tie event or even just going to a themed party, people don't follow the theme. People don't, people always say you can't even bother hosting things like a dress up party because people don't follow the theme. Is that something that you see as well?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll speak as a person who's based in Zimbabwe. I have come to notice that our biggest problem is that in the fashion industry, we have failed to put quality over quantity. So you notice that there's less competition because there isn't many people who are really bringing the A game on when it comes to delivering quality and creating proper trends that push the next person to want to do better. And like Tafaz was said, we need to unite and try to motivate each other. I mean, we in high school we were taught about the hierarchy of needs and motivation. So sometimes we need to understand that, motivation comes from, seeing someone being rewarded for doing something. It pushes you to say, okay, if Wakelo can be listed as one of the top 10 most influential entrepreneurs in Zimbabwe, I should do better than that. She's a woman like me. That's motivation. So we lack that. People hardly recognize other people's efforts or good work or anything. So there's no recognition to start with. So I think what we need to do is unite and create fashion boards that allow all fashionistas, designers, and retailers, entrepreneurs in the fashion industry, models to come together and understand that I need to bring my A game on for people to recognize me. Because international recognition comes from recognition in your area. So I want to believe that we need to first learn to grow ourselves in our own society and to grow each other. And this comes from being motivated to do better. I'll tell you what, when I started my brand, my main line was lingerie, Enchantress. I remember very well that it was really hard for me to penetrate the market, or rather get clients, because people looked at me and said, the only lingerie brands we know are Fenty by Rihanna or Victoria's Secret. So nobody really takes you seriously. Why? Because there's nobody else who's doing it. Why are you doing it? I'm very happy now to tell you that I've seen a few other people into lingerie and they're doing quite well. So it's now beginning to make sense that it's okay for a Black African woman to actually pose in lingerie and post a picture as marketing and attract clients. And I'll tell you what, in the beginning, most of my clients were males because they will come to try and buy for their females. But now I see women coming too, because people are now slowly becoming confident enough to believe that these things are important. We need them. It's okay for us to own these things or believe in these things. So I think we are lacking that unity as people in the fashion industry to come together and grow each other, motivate each other to do better.
I think I want to agree with you on that one, to say if you stand together as a team, right, everybody else kind of will follow suit. So maybe that's where it needs to begin. Once maybe, if, like Topaz was saying, setting up a board of some sort, and we actually start to put some structures in there, and then maybe you can start to coordinate things a bit better in that way. Utendo, what's your take on that?
I think I'm going to, I agree with what everybody else has said about, we need to support our very own and, push our own local brands. But I think, like I said, said earlier, the Zimbabwean fashion industry is really in its infancy. And like Taf was saying, it's because we don't have regulators as well. We don't have people that can come in and do quality control. I know there's been efforts that have been made with Zimtrade to bring in different experts from different spaces from abroad who can actually tell people and coach people on how to, build a sustainable brand, quality control, how to brand, how to market things. But I feel like, like what Natalie said, we really lack local support and celebrating ourselves. We don't do that enough. And same message that I was, pushing from the start is we can't celebrate each other because we are all fighting to be relevant, and that comes from insecurity which comes from someone not knowing who they are and their brand completely. So example that I gave, there's no way people would, if I wasn't secure in myself and in my brand and what I'm building and what it stands for, I wouldn't feel comfortable to go and buy a Patch Maoko bag. I would look at her as a competitor, and if she posts her stores that are doing well or bags that are doing well internationally, I'm not gonna repost that post because in my mind I'm thinking, well, she's doing better than me because I'm insecure within my brand. I don't have brand security, but I'm able to repost a Pat Maoko post and cheer her on because I know what I stand for, completely different, and I know what she stands for, and I'll celebrate her. But we don't have that collectivism. So I always say, if you're an insecure brand and an insecure individual, you're going to find it very difficult to celebrate somebody else. You're going to find it difficult to celebrate your competitor. And the thing is, with Natalie, she's saying, there's Fenty, there's Victoria's Secret, there's Simone Perel, there's so many luxury brands, lingerie brands out there, but she doesn't look at them as a competitor because she knows what her brand stands for and what her market is. That's an African narrative. So she's not going to feel insecure with somebody wearing a Fenty bra or a Victoria's Secret bra. She's not going to have a problem posting, saying, or taking inspiration, but we don't know how to do that because we're not secure within our own brands, which is a key thing. So I think that the best thing moving forward is having platforms that can actually teach what branding is, what that voice is, understanding your market. I always say investigate before you invest. before you mass produce and put anything out there on the market. Investigate what your market is. I allowed myself to go through a discovery phase before I even decided to create another collection. And Fambanini at the moment, there hasn't been any stuff that I've produced in the past year, because I'm allowing myself and the brand to go through a space of discovery. What's the next voice of Fambanini before I just make a bag, So I'll probably say that's probably the key thing that I would encourage us to do in the fashion space and the creative space, lifestyle space. Let's understand who we are and what we stand for before we push this out, because people buy narratives more than they're actually buying. Yeah, consumerism is being pushed by stories and narratives. You see
the image.
Wearing image, and you want to be that. Why is someone going to want to be seen in a proudly Zimbabwean bag or proudly Zimbabwean suit or proudly Zimbabwean lingerie if I don't know that identity myself? What is proudly Zimbabwean? Define that. We can't define that.
Right.
Things that are made locally, that's not enough.
Okay, so to add on to what you said, I want to give you an example of a little social media fight that happened a few weeks back. There's a local brand created by a UK based man. It's called PVO, Positive Vibes Only. I know people are willing to go and pay $100 for a cap from the Nike store. But when he came with his product, there was a lot of backlash from social media, people calling him names, telling him, you dream too high, you're overdoing it. And that's simply because we do not want to accept the evolution of fashion amongst ourselves. We do not want to believe that there's actually some of us who are able to create brands that can actually grow past these borders. So I think the biggest problem that we're facing is that it's not really about us failing to penetrate the global market. It's us failing to secure clientele from our own people. Because I want to believe that as a social media influencer, if I wear something and I post it, it's going to reach out to my 20-something thousand followers. And amongst those people, there's going to be a few people who are going to be like, oh, I like that. That's nice. And they'll go and try and purchase it. I'll give you an example. A month ago, I wore a dress by Maison de Style. It's a creation by Laurence Franco. Beautiful dresses, beautiful pieces. She was posting these dresses all this time. And people who know her would go and buy. But it's only up until popular people started wearing these things and people were like, oh, that's nice. Can I go buy that? Where can I get that? Simply because, the power of social media allows us to convey messages to the masses. But it's also very hard to convey these messages to people who then want to come back and say, I'm not going to buy that because it's too expensive. We can't support each other's dreams because we want to believe that the next person doesn't deserve to make money from whatever they're selling. So the problem is, it's really hard to price your original creations amongst your own kin because they want to believe that it's okay to pay $80 for one Victoria's Secret panty, but it's impossible for them to pay $100 for a full set of underwear from my brand, simply because I'm Zimbabwean. So people have grown to believe that if you're a local, your brand has to come with cheap products just because you're a local. But I've seen people going to pay thousands of dollars for other brands from international designers. So I think what we need to do is first educate our people to understand that for Giorgio Armani to become global like that, he had support from his own kin. We got to know about that brand because his own people were wearing it and putting it out there.
That's right. And you've raised a very interesting point. I'm just gonna have us take a quick break here, but then when I come back, I'd like to get into detail about collaborations. Maybe going across industries with collaborations, and maybe touch a little bit on mentorship in the fashion industry. So we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back and get into that. Right, welcome back, everyone. Thank you to everyone who's following through in the comments. We can see you and we're coming through. I'm gonna have the panel answer a few questions at the end, so you can stick around for that. So I just wanted to get into, because you were talking about collaborations, you're talking about say wearing pink bottoms, having, I've seen people like Hollywood Lee modeling pink bottoms, people collaborating in that way. So that's all well and fine within the fashion industry. But we have seen you, Natalie, cross a bit of a boundary there, moving into the music industry, and now going into what you call it, video vixen mode. What has that done for your brand? What value is there in going across industries like that?
So I appreciate the fact that, Military Touch Group considered me to be part of their team, and I worked with them, and being a video vixen for that song has brought so much traffic towards me. It has grown my social media numbers to start with. It has attracted a lot of collaborations with big brands. Like I mentioned earlier on, I am an ambassador for Memshek International. It's a repatriation company. They approached me, they said, we like your confidence, we just like, how you present yourself. We think you'd be the perfect face for our brand, and, you can be able to convey our message to the masses. And, I am a brand ambassador for Send It To, courtesy of that. So I've been recognized by a lot of big brands to work with them just because of that song. And even my brand, Style Philosophy, has grown past what it was, just because now that everyone knows me. The one thing that I then decided was, I'm not then going to use this fame for likes. I'm not going to use it for clout. I'm going to grow this into money. So what I then decided to do was sit down, I rebranded, I even changed the look of my store, I even changed how I do things. So I upgraded myself to match this image that this video vixen gig had created for me. So it has grown my numbers, it has grown my image tremendously, because once people know you, they want to know what you're about. So I then decided not to let people down, and I had to give the people what they wanted to see. So I want to, to thank Military Touch for giving me that platform, to show the world who I was. And I've gained so much respect in society as a whole. And, I've been recognized by people courtesy of that. As I stand right now, I'm listed on the Gumi 50 under 30 class of 2020 future leaders. Because after that, I've managed to grow myself from being seen as just a video vixen or commercial model. But I've also let people understand and see me as the entrepreneur that I am. During lockdown, we would have live sessions where we would talk about financial intelligence, where we're concerned, where we'll talk about how to grow your brand, how to grow yourself, how to start a business with minimal capital. So I've managed to have a voice. So once that Vixen gig created a platform for me, and it created a large following for me, I managed to then share whatever it is I believe in with the masses, and the feedback has been amazing. As I sit here right now, there's a lot of amazing offers that keep on coming my way, because, when they call me, the first thing they say is, we know you as Menya Emwana from Japre's song. So it has grown me from just from just being seen as a girl who's in a music video to being noticed as an African woman who's going past just the good looks, but also, breaking the ground of this commercial industry of being an entrepreneur. And I appreciate it so much.
I like that. I think it's great sometimes to get to hear from people that you see in that way. Like, like you're right. You're saying, you're known from the video, but I think a lot of people appreciate hearing you talk and, hearing what you're about in that way. So thank you for actually joining this platform and presenting yourself in such a manner. Rutendo, I just wanted to find out from you, have you done anything outside of the fashion industry? Like, have you, you said you've modeled, like the exhibition you were talking about. What else have you done? How else have you used other platforms outside of fashion to grow your brand?
So I've actually, like Natalie, worked with Military Touch Movement on art direction and set design for Japre's current album, the Hokoyo album. So I did art direction and set design for the Hokoyo video, costume design, everything. Great. Yeah. So I've also Tammy Moyo on a couple of her videos. I've also worked in the film space and producing festivals in America, in the States. So last year, there was a Love Ventlawn Festival in Philadelphia and in Ventlawn City, in Atlantic City in the States. So I've also existed in different spaces, but it's been projects that relate with my brand. We speak the voice because I believe collaboration, you need to share core values for a collaboration to happen.
Right.
So most of the projects that have come my way have just evolved organically from basically having a similar narrative. And for Fambanini, it's been interesting that I don't even know how to actually explain it, but I've been privileged to exist in spaces that I had no business being a part of. Designing for, Chanel, designing some of my designs that were bought by Chanel. But I think the key thing that opened those doors for me was I was honest with myself and where I was. I was aware about my blind spots and my strengths, and I spoke about them. So, for example, when it comes to sketching products like handbags and shoes, it's something that I absolutely hate. I write designs, I don't sketch designs. And then you have a brand that says, oh my gosh, I love how you visually execute things and the stories that you tell. And then they marry a design to a story. So then those collaborations, happen naturally because what my strength is what that brand's weaknesses is. But in general, they're all pushing the narrative of Fambanini, which is a journey with no destination, traveling different places and telling different stories. So I'd have to say being able to zone in on what Fambanini stands for, having a futuristic perspective of what I want it to be 10 years from now, 50 years from now, has also been able to act as a filter on the sort of collaborations that I would want. So that symbiotic is there, and it also doesn't compromise my brand, and it also doesn't compromise the brand that I'll be working with. But yeah, I've tried to allow myself to explore different spaces. So I gain different skills and different information, like working with Andy Kuta, working with Blacks, the videographer, working with Nico Abote, working with Tani, working with House of Stone, BNN, working with Ben Hart in Italy, jewelry designers, Patrick Mavros. I've had an opportunity to exist in so many spaces, but I was so clear to myself that let this be an exploration phase for you. So you zero in on where you actually want to fit in. So my first collaboration was with House of Stone. And that came from wanting to, someone who designed clothes and wanting accessories. And that's how that collaboration happened. Then I collaborated with Endicota to create my fashion film. And that came from me having a fashion story, but not having, the visual element to execute it. So good collaborations happen from people understanding their weaknesses and their strengths. The problem is we want to be masters of everything. That's why we don't have sensible collaborations happening in Zimbabwe, especially.
So with collaborations, I think, we're talking fashion with music and so on. But what I've kind of picked up from this conversation as well is maybe there seems to be some need for mentorship. Do you feel like you've got a lot of mentors in the fashion industry? How open are people to mentoring upcoming fashion designers, upcoming fashionistas or entrepreneurs? How open have you had experiences with trying to get mentorship from Zimbabwean made designers or made entrepreneurs? Maybe you could shed some light on that, Tatenda.
I actually do. So Patrick Mavros is my mentor, but he's my mentor on a branding perspective. So the key thing is I'll use a corporate strategy, right? You have someone who's in finance, you have someone who's in marketing, you have someone who's in operations, you have the CEO of the company. One thing is most of the times the people who are idea generators are not strong in finance. They are not strong in business
Right.
development. They're not strong in business growth. And being able to understand your blind spots, as a creative, will be able to help you decide, okay, now I need a mentor in finance because this person is going to help me monetize my creative idea. Because that person will give you a perspective from a monetary point, right? And then you say, okay, how then do I market this idea? You speak to someone who's in marketing and branding, and they'll be able to give you that strength. So I've been very fortunate to walk that journey and understand that at a very early stage in my creative journey, and realize people that were around me. Okay, let me reach out to Patrick. And reaching out to him was, somebody had to take me there, and I thought, okay, I'm going to buy Patrick Margaret's product because I'm going to buy into his relationship. A lot of the times we want to have things for free because we feel entitled, but I had to buy into that relationship by supporting his brand. And that's how we caught attention, and then we just developed rapport from there. So he's my branding and identity mentor. And then I've got a finance mentor. So I've been fortunate enough to have someone who's a brother and a business partner, and a friend who are in the, two people who are in the finance space. So one of them is actually running an established nurture beef, finance-driven person. So I understand, okay, I've got an idea, but then how do I monetize my idea? So I collaborate with someone in finance, and they help me look at my fashion brand and all of that from a finance perspective. So reaching out, and that comes
Right.
from accepting your blind spots and not looking at your weaknesses as a setback, but looking at them as an opportunity to expand your network, expand your platform. So yeah, I've been privileged to have amazing mentors. Accessories designer for Gucci happened to be a mentor, but that relationship also happened because I shared my story, my Zimbabwe narrative story. If I'm coming from Zimbabwe, this is what I'm passionate. This is the story I'm trying to tell. And then that relationship happened organically. Mentorship is like being in an actual love relationship with someone. You need to understand each other's language, each other's weaknesses, be vulnerable. No pride can exist in that space. You need to be open to criticism. Entitlement cannot exist in that space. Being able to self-introspect, is very key. So yeah, you'd be surprised there's people who are willing to actually mentor, but because we have so much pride and with so much pride, you're not going to reach out to someone, you're waiting for someone to approach you, and it doesn't happen that way. Pam Samasuo, the founder of Vanu Vangwe, I DM'd her. I DM'd her and I forced her to adopt me as a child. And I said, look, I don't care how many children you have, you're going to have me as a child. I need, direction on how I can, put my voice out there and remain authentic in a space that is so much noise. Be able to ignore criticism that's irrelevant to what I'm doing. Be able to see it from a point of, okay, what can I do better? So reaching out is key. Pride, if you have pride, if you don't know who you are, where you're going, you will never be able to attract good mentors, and you'll never be able to keep that.
I think also those are very good points. Very good points. I'd love to also hear from Natalie. Do you have mentors? And also, because you spoke about starting to, when you start your business, you were buying clothes from abroad and bringing them over. What would be your advice to someone who wants to start off, who sees you doing this? Maybe they don't necessarily know how to approach whatever, but what would you advise someone who wants to start off on this entrepreneurial journey in fashion? So firstly, talk about mentors, and then just some advice for someone who wants to start off on that journey.
Thank you very much. So when I started Style Philosophy, I initially started doing things on my own because it so happened that I was in Turkey at that time rather, and as I was walking down with Turkey, the market for clothing, for rather high street clothing, it's located in one place. So as I was walking around, I have a certain taste of clothes that I have, and I would spot what I like and buy it, and I got a whole lot of stuff and I brought it home. But what I did not understand about that was entrepreneurship is not as easy as buying and selling. We need know-how on how to handle the product, how to market the product, how to put it out there. So as time went by, I approached Nomatemba Ndebele, the owner of Porsche VIP. I want to believe Porsche is the best female boutique in Zimbabwe. You know, I look up to her a lot. I approached her and I told her my story. I mean, I'd always been in her DMs telling her, you know, when I grow up, I really want to be like you because, you know, she's a single parent like me. So I approached her, I told her what I had started. And I also told her about how I've always been a person who's very expressive. I can take a picture in a bikini and post it, and I would not care about what the next person says. I have had nude portraits taken to express my reality as a Black woman who's given birth, to show my flaws. So I approached her and she said to me, the one thing I love about you is that, you know, you're a very firm character, you're a strong character. So she then started sharing suppliers with me and she would give me advice. The one thing that she taught me the most was the aspect of financial intelligence. She told me that not all money is good money. Sometimes their customers will come to try and tarnish your image by starting wrong conversations. And the one thing that you don't want is to mess up the good name of your brand by engaging in unnecessary conversation. So she also taught me that, you know, your target market is not everybody. She taught me how to, you know, to notice what it is I needed from the public and right. Went on, I can safely say, you know, I bought my way into being mentored by Pokelo. I started off as a customer. I would buy stuff from her. You know, she noticed me and she started talking to me. And even when I would get cyberbullied, you know, she's the first person who calls to check on me and she gives me advice on how to handle that. And the one thing that I've learned from her in my journey as, you know, as someone who's being mentored by her is how to remain firm and true to yourself. And Pokelo has taught me that there's no publicity that's bad publicity. The moment it's bringing numbers to you, convert those numbers to money. So I am mentored by these two lovely ladies, and they are on the top charts in the local Zimbabwean fashion industry. I mean, everyone claps hands to them because they're very good at what they do in their respective industries. And I'm also mentored by a certain gentleman who's a friend of mine. He has an MBA. He is a top financial director for a company that's recognized worldwide. So he has taught me the ethics and the basic fundamentals of how to handle money and how to actually, you know, make money and grow it. So I have a strong team of people behind me who teach me how to handle myself, who teach me how to grow myself as a brand and, you know, how to grow my brand into just not just being some local small brand, but into being something that's going to be globally, you know, recognized. And so I have learned a lot from these people, and I can safely say to the next person who's looking to grow themselves and, you know, start something, entrepreneurship is no easy journey. And, you know, it takes sacrifice to grow yourself to become what you really want to be, and it takes patience. So the one thing that anyone needs if they're trying to grow a brand, they need to first, you know, seek within themselves what it is they want. Like Rutendo said, you need to do something that relates with you, something that pours your soul out, something that speaks about who and what you're about. So I think if someone wants to start a brand or, you know, start a business, I think the first step to make themselves marketable is to identify what they are about. Once you do that, you also need to identify your strengths and your weaknesses. And like Rutendo said, I'm a firm believer of self-introspection. It takes yourself to tell yourself that this is not good. So for you to be able to grow yourself into something that everybody else looks at and respects, you need to first grow yourself into a person that you yourself look at and respect. So I think the other thing that I can tell the next person is your brand is strongest when it's targeted at the right people, at the right market. I'll give an example. You want to sell potatoes. If you want to sell potatoes and make a name out of yourself by selling potatoes, you're not going to go launch a small table, Kumbare, because there's already 500 people doing that thing. Think outside the box. Go launch a little selling station, maybe someplace in Mount Pleasant, where there's a lot of traffic passing by. Make sure that you brand yourself in a way that if cars are passing by, they're able to recognize you. Because it takes sacrifice and it takes confidence to be able to be noticed. And the other thing that people need to do also is to join a professional society. If you want to be into clothing and apparel, you need to understand that Instagram is king where that is concerned. So you need to create a proper social media presence, grow yourself first, grow your numbers first. And once you have a presence, you can then, start introducing your product to the public. The other thing is a lot of people assume that to start a brand, one needs to have a lot of money. It's not like that. You can start to grow your brand from so little money. What you just need to do is simply make sure that you remain true to your ethics. You want to start selling clothes. You get clothes for $500. You price them accordingly and you start selling your clothes. Create even a small group of clients that are going to put the word out there. And once the word is out there, people are going to come streaming in your way and you will slowly grow yourself. So growth is a process, just like how butterflies are grown. You start from being an egg. It's evolution. You grow with time. So I can safely say that, if anyone is trying to start a brand, they need to practice patience, caution, and lots of self-introspection. And confidence is key because for you to be able to make your mark, people need to see you in the same vision or image that you're trying to portray. I'll give you an example of myself. I am a college dropout, but I've worked in top law firms in the country, names withheld, because I walked into that building and I said to the boss, "Hi, my name is Natalie. I'm looking for a job." He asked me if you worked in a legal firm before. I said no. He said, "So what makes you think you can come and work here?" I confidently told him that I am very eager to learn and I'm willing to take the first month fee so he can teach me the ropes and see if he likes my work ethic. 2 weeks later, I was on a permanent salary. And, a month later, I was probably one of the best in the firm. And that's simply because I'm one person who's a go-getter. If I want something, I go for it. I quickly learn how to do it and I grasp it and I make sure that, it speaks about me. I combine it with myself and it becomes a part of me. So for you to be able to grow yourself or to start something, you need to make sure that you relate with whatever it is first. Develop a passion for it. Because being an entrepreneur is not just, being seen in a power suit and, saying, "Hi, I'm the CEO of what. It goes beyond that. You need to first make sure you know your moral fiber to start with. You need to have some sense of personality that relates with whatever it is you're trying to start. So growing a brand or starting a business rather, requires so much patience and it requires mixing with the right people. I always advise everyone around me to create a LinkedIn profile and to try and associate and follow people in the specific field you want to venture in or you're already in. You learn from others. And like I said before, no man is an island. You need to join specific networks, learn from them, see how they do their thing. Nomatemba is in the same business as me. She sells high-end clothing. She does it better than I do because she's been there for a while. But I appreciate how she doesn't look at me as competition. She's taken me as a young sister that she's teaching how to grow, that she's teaching how to do things. So it comes down to also, acknowledging certain people for their willingness to work with you. So I think it comes down to people understanding that you don't just wake up becoming successful. You grow, you learn from others, you humble yourself. Yes, if you're to work as under someone and they're mentoring you, they tell you to tie their shoelaces, you have to do it because sometimes they're trying to test you and see how patient you are.
Yeah.
So it's a growing is a test. You need to prove that you're worthy of this growth, that you're worthy of becoming whatever you want to become. And all I can just say is, it really takes time to grow, but eventually that happens.
I think from this session, we've learned a lot about, your image and how you build it. I mean, in a nutshell, it seems like the take home is be confident, know who you are, stand in your truth, and your brand will build itself around you, so to speak. And thank you for that insight. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Rutendo. And in absentia, thank you, Tafadzwa. Unfortunately, we were supposed to have Hollywood Lee join us, but I'm just going to give her apologies. She couldn't make it, but she was absolutely shattered that she couldn't come through as well. But thank you guys for being such an amazing panel. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, but it's always fun hanging out with people like you, young, brilliant minds, who know where they're going, who are ready to help other people. And just because people were talking about it, people were saying, can you link us to your work? So perhaps after this, if you could just kind of put the link in the comment section. Any art that you're doing, any new collections that you're putting out, any of those things, any information about any of your brands, you could maybe put it in the comment section so that people can then access it later on. Do you have any, maybe just in a minute, quick parting remarks, Rutendo, and then Natalie can close off. Go ahead, Rutendo.
Yeah, I think my parting remarks are, this has been an amazing talk and discussion. But what I would definitely say is, to people, know your identity, know yourself, be secure in yourself, and develop a brand manual, your blueprint that acts as a filter and a map to where you're going. That's the biggest thing that's managed to help me grow my brand and exist in different spaces. Be authentic, and true to yourself. And above all, quality. Ask yourself, before I put something out there, if I was a customer, would I walk in and pay $1,000 for that? If the answer is no, you've no business putting that thing on the shelf. So be honest with yourself. And another thing is, don't be attached and sentimental in the fashion space, because being sentimental and attached can also be a death trap. So always have people that can be a mirror, people that you can bounce off ideas, seek mentorship, but mentorship that speaks to you, to what you're trying to do and where you're going. And celebrate yourself before anybody else celebrates you. Don't fight for it, fight to build and have a futuristic perspective to what you're doing, like what any corporate company would do. Your Old Mutuals, your bank institutions, your Coca-Colas, that logo is powerful. That tick, that Nike tick is powerful, because the cost of rebranding is massive. So take time to explore and really discover what it is you're trying to put out there, what your voice is, what your audience is, understand your market. I think those would be my parting remarks. And let's be patriotic and support and celebrate each other.
Thank you, Rutendo. The comments are coming in. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies. This is inspirational. I'm motivated. Any parting remarks, Natalie? Maybe just in a few seconds.
Okay, so I want to say to the next person who's going to try and grow themselves into an entrepreneurial business space, you need to know your backyard before you try to explore the world, because charity begins at home and so does growth. So my advice is that, branding goes as far as an individual's personal beliefs and ethics. Be true to yourself, like Rutendo said, and always remember to remain firm. The world is full of people who are going to try and bring you down, but it takes confidence and being firm to grow. So my parting words are, always remember to remain confident and vigilant in everything you do. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining in. Another special thanks to World Remit, our sponsors, for making all this happen. Special thanks to Kudu Business Support, Highmont Construction, and Fine and Country for making all this happen. Remember to just catch the conversation on Twitter at #ZAA Summit. And we're also live on Facebook, ZAA page. We're live on Zimba Live, and we're also on YouTube page. So this is officially the end of session on lifestyle and fashion, but do stay with us because we've got at 12:30 we've got another interesting session. We've got film coming through. We have all right, I think we've lost our people, but it's fine. We've got film coming through. We've got an amazing panel on there too. So you should definitely tune in for that at 12:30 as we continue the Global Summit. Thank you for joining us and have a fabulous day.